It's good morning to all of you boys and girls. Today in class 10 science biology we'll go for the topic breathing mechanism. Sure. In this we'll go for the process, steps, working of the diaphragm, and in this we'll have some kind of ICT based your teaching. This is the video which was prepared last year in class 7, made by my official photographer Mr. Rakesh Singh. Shall we start? Yes, so in breathing mechanism, as the name says, this will have something, the parts. The parts which are necessary, we are calling them as what here? The first part is your, the respiratory organ called as lungs. Fine, so nice. So this is the one which is called as your respiratory organ. Fine, so good start. And then we have the entire your pipes. So we are calling them as your pipes. So two parts, 1 and 2. Now these pipes, we are calling them as your starting. From here, it will go down. So this pipe will first break up into something called as your, pardon? It's called as trachea. Fine. So we'll call this as very easy name for us. We are calling it as windpipe. Ready? So windpipe, it descends down. Or the trachea descends down, and it has some kind of your very C-shaped, C-shaped rings, and these C-shaped rings prevents the collapse. Do you understand? So this trachea with your C-shaped your, we are calling it as your cartilaginous rings. Sure. Then we move down. It goes down the trachea. It breaks up into your two of the parts. Each of the part we are calling them as your bronchus. Sure. We are calling it as bronchus. Plural will be called as your pardon? Could you understand? Yeah. Now this your breaks up further into your many of the tubes, This you are called as your bronchioles. Can you understand? We are calling them as your bronchioles. Bronchioles further break up into your many of the thin tubes, and we are calling them as your bronchial ducts. Now these end up into your something called as your, we are calling them as what your alveoli. Alveoli is the plural. These are, we are calling it as your, we are calling them as your air sacs. So these are small balloons or grape-like structures which will actually expand as well as what your, it will go, sure, collapse. Fine. So this alveolus is your this. You can also use the singular as your alveolus. And the last part, we have something called as your, we are calling them as your diaphragm. See? Diaphragm is the membrane which goes down as well as goes up. So it will control the entire mechanism of breathing. Can you understand? Yes, sir. Sure. Now all these things, trachea is ahead, trachea is here. All these things, all these are here in this cavity, And this is now called as, we are calling this as your, we are calling this as chest cavity. The other name of this is also called as your, we are calling it as your thorax. Okay? And these thorax has these your structures which will prevent the thorax from collapsing with your, hope you remember them, we are calling them as ribs. Can you understand? Yes. Can you understand? So rib is actually a sort of cage. This we are calling it chest cavity. We can also call this as your, cage. Now with this, we start with steps. We have two of the steps. So process is your 2. Here we are calling it as your, the first is called as your taking in of your air or breathing in. Is called as inhalation. Second is called as your exhalation. Thank you. So you understand this. Now this inhalation can be break it up into things. So say air, we'll write it, air taken in. Can you understand? And this air here, this is air moved out. Are you following what I'm saying? Yes. Sure. Now this diaphragm is where diaphragm has the two properties. It expands. Sure. When it expands, sure, it goes down. Can you understand? Yes. Can you understand? When it expands, it will go down. Go down. Ready? It goes down. And the second is this. We call them as your contracts. It goes up. Ready? Please understand. Now look at my hands. I'm saying in this way that we have your trachea, it goes down, it takes up into your bronchioles, and finally into your alveoli. Okay? Now this is the position. This my hand is the position of the diaphragm. Diaphragm goes down, air moves in by the process called as what? Inhalation. Can you understand?
Yes, sir.
And then when the diaphragm goes up, the rib cage collapses and the internal air goes out. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
When we go much deeper in your class 11 as well as class 12, we'll understand that internal pressure increases when your teeth collapse. Can you understand? Must have heard, if the volume decreases, the pressure increases. When the volume expands, or pressure decreases. So you'll have, Rakesh, I'd like you to understand here itself and so we'll have the entire of it. We'll have the entire of it. We'll have the entire of it, sure, and we'll go step by step. Now this was shot last year by Rakesh Singh, and this experiment was done regarding your expansion as well as your contraction of the jaw muscles. Let's go.
This one, yesterday, last video, last we have learned how the breathing takes place. The chest cavity and the lungs and the diaphragm. We have a small experiment. And all these things which are here, they have been mentioned. These are very obvious. So balloon, thread, glass tube, bell jar, football pattern, or rubber ball. So this is before the you can mark this is diagram number your A, this is diagram number your B, this is diagram number C, and this is diagram number D. So this is now empty bell jar.
Sure. So we will take sort of bell jar, and this bell jar will be made up of glass. This bell jar will represent our what your chest cavity. We'll make a sort of your football bladder, and we'll cut the lower portion and we'll attach. Let's see. This is what. Let's see.
And football bladder quite similar to what we have.
Can you understand? Can you see what I'm saying? Let me show one second. Let me show one second.
Similar to what we have.
Can you see what I'm? This is what I'm saying. Is this is your entire bell jar. This bell jar will represent our chest cavity. This your football bladder, which has been cut and has been tied. This will represent what your diaphragm. And there is a sort of opening with a glass tube. The glass tube will be acting as a windpipe. Ready? And this is the opening which has been put. We'll have it once again. Sure, we'll have it once again.
Empty bell jar and football bladder tied with the end of your thread.
Could you understand what I'm saying? Sure. One second.
And this is your balloon or balloon.
Sure. So balloon will be representing what your our lungs. Fine. So ultimately you understand what I'm saying.
Tied
Fine. So, could you understand? Could you understand? So entire setup is like this is going in, this will be direct flow. Just check what is happening.
This comes to me of the diagram. So now I am rather breathing in. So when we breathe in, diagram goes.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
Are you understanding? The weather goes downwards through your windpipe and see what is happening.
So let's see. Diagram goes.
Could you understand?
Yes.
Are you following what I'm saying? This is I'm saying this Rakesh you can show. This is where we are expanding. As soon as it is expanding, the internal volume increasing. So air will rush in. Are you understanding this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll play once. Play once.
Now, as soon as the diagram goes down, balloon will.
So balloons are lungs. So lungs will get filled with air. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Breathing in. This called as in.
Are you following? Are you following what I'm saying? We have done this.
In. And then we are breathing out. Rather breathing out.
So this will be called as
Exhalation.
fine. Very.
This one which has gone down. Which one has gone down? Diagram. Membrane goes up.
Could you hear? Could you hear? Could you hear the sound? Why the sound is coming out? We are breathing in, taking in of air. When we are breathing out, we are forcing the air to go out of the body to the nose and the nostrils. I have not mentioned here. The nose, nostrils here, we already understand that. When it goes out, the production of water, sound. Are you understanding? Okay. So the same process we will have it once again before we summarize.
Can you hear the sound? What is happening? Breathing out.
Could you understand?
Yes,
So
sir.
the entire process we are saying that the things goes down, that means we are breathing in, things goes up. Which thing? This thing. Is the diaphragm. Can you understand? The membrane goes down, the membrane goes up, and things in this way take the place that your air moves in and out, and that mechanism will be called as breathing mechanism. Can you understand what we say?
Yes, sir.
Sure. And ultimately, once again,
Exhalation. So this balloon which has got inflated, rather which has expanded.
expansion of the balloon means expansion of the your alveoli, that means your lungs, and contraction of the balloon here.
Now,
Could you follow what I'm saying? Could you follow what I'm saying? Sure. So let's revise. So we have today done how the process of air that is taken in, that is your inhalation, exhalation, and these are your parts of the body. I have not included here lungs. You know the lungs and your sure. The lungs are your respiratory organ which you expand as well as your collapse, and then we have pipes and the entire pipes ultimately reaching up to the diaphragm. Can you understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Okay, boys and girls. Thanks to all of you, and thanks for your so much patience. Sure. Thanks a lot. I'd like to show my official